Good morning, everyone. My name is Somesh Thaplyal, and I am pursuing BTech CSE from Graphic Era Hill University, Dehradun. And currently, I am living in Dehradun, Uttarakhand. Talking about my academics, I have completed my 10th and 12th from an ICSE recognized board, the Himalayan Public School. I have secured 85% in my 10th standard and 80% in my 12th standard. Talking about extra co-curricular activities, I have taken part in many inter-school debate competition, inter-school drama competitions, and inter-school sports competition. Talking about my hobbies, I love to play guitar and I also love to play football. So I did an online course on software security and made a presentation on it. So first we will be seeing that what topics that we are going to study in my presentation. So first of all, we will be seeing what is software security, its types, the firewalls and the computer antiviruses, the buffer overflow, control flow integrity, code injection, pen testing, return oriented programming. After that, type safety, memory safety, secure coding, web basics, session hijacking, SQL injection, and fuzzing. So now the question arises in our mind is that what is software security? So the software security is the application of techniques that assesses, mitigate and protect software systems from vulnerabilities or the malicious file or from the hackers. So these techniques ensure that the software continue to function and are safe from attacks. So basically software security is the idea of engineering software so that it continues to function correctly under malicious attacks. So there are different types of software security and some of them I have listed here, such that network security or the password managers, computer antiviruses, and we are using computer antiviruses from a very long time and I think everyone knows that. And anti-spyware software, log management software, encryption software, monitoring tool, bot mitigation, and many more. So now the question arises that why do we need software security? So basically, many websites nowadays use software within its function, which requires user interaction. And when user enter his personal details in that, so that details are very crucial for the company as well as for the user. So to protect this important data, we use software security. And depending upon the type of the data that how much personal it is or how much crucial it is, we choose a security. Now we see what is type safety. So type safety is basically it is the extent to which a programming language discourages or prevents the type errors, and basically it is stronger than the memory safety, and type safety programs do not go wrong at runtime, and each object is ascribed a type such as int, pointer to function, and operations on the object are always compatible with the object's type. So now comes firewalls and the computer antiviruses. So computer antiviruses, as we all know, we have been using antiviruses from a very long time, and the computer antiviruses protect computers, our networks and IT system by preventing and detecting the malicious files. So basically, it scans our computer and gives us the alert messages whenever it finds any suspicious activities or such malicious files. Now, firewalls are network security systems that prevent unauthorized access to a network. It can be hardware or a software. Basically, firewalls are used in enterprises and personal settings, and most operating systems have a basic built in firewall. But however, using a third party firewall application provides better protection as compared to the built in firewalls. Now, we will see about buffer overflow. So what is buffer overflow? So it's a small bug that affects low level code such as in C and C++ programming languages. And buffer overflow mainly occurs when the is volume of the data is bigger than the means it exceeds its volume when the as compared to the storage of the memory buffer. So this buffer overflow occurs when the amount of data in the buffer exceeds its storage capacity, and that extra data overflows into adjacent memory location, and it corrupts or override the data that is already present in there in those location. and it's a bug that affects low level code, as I mentioned earlier, typically in C and C++, with significant security implications. Now we'll see about what are code injections. So code injections are also known as remote code execution. It enables the attacker to execute malicious code as a result of an injection attack. So code injection basically refers to when a hacker injects a small piece of code into an application to change the way it would be executing, means changing its behavior during the execution time. So code injection attacks are different than command injection attacks, and attackers' capability depend on the limits of the server-side interpreter. And typically the code injection occurs when an application evaluates code without validating it first. So to avoid code injection, we need to first validate our code. Now, return-oriented programming. Return-oriented programming is the most dangerous and most widely used technique to exploit software vulnerabilities. An attacker gains control of the call stack to hijack program control flow and then executes carefully. So by obtaining the control of the call stack, the attacker can control the flow of existing trusted software running on the computer and manipulate it on their own ends. Now we learn about defenses against low level attack. So these defenses mainly fall into two categories. The first one is the automatic and second is the manual. And typically such attacks arrives as data over a regular communication channel and once resident in program memory trigger pre-existing low level software vulnerabilities. By exploiting such flaws, these low level attacks can subvert the execution of the software and gain control over its behavior. Now we will learn about memory safety. So we first learn about type safety and now we will learn about memory safety. So memory safety is basically the state of being protected from various software bugs or from the malicious files and security vulnerabilities when dealing with the memory access, such as buffer overflows and dangling pointers. So a program execution is memory safe as long as some list of bad things does not occur, and some of them I have mentioned here, like buffer overflow, null pointer dereference, use after free, use of uninitialized memory, and illegal free. Now, secure software development. It's a threat modeling or architectural risk analysis, security requirements, avoiding flaws with principles, design category. It's favor simplicity, trust with reluctance, and defense in depth monitoring traceability. Now we come to secure coding. What is secure coding? So secure coding is basically writing our code or the program that's protected from vulnerabilities or from the hackers. And why it is important? It is important for all softwares, whether you write your code that runs on mobile apps or the personal computers, servers, or embedded devices. And there are types of security vulnerabilities that affect the codes. Mainly there are two types: the buffer overflow and the code injection flaw. And buffer overflow, as we mentioned earlier, when the volume of the data is bigger, means it exceeds the storage capacity of the memory buffer, so the data gets leaked. And in code injection flaw, the malware attackers, they just inject the code into the applications, so that the execution, it affects the execution of the program. Now we will learn about web securities, attacks, and defenses. So first we will learn about the basics of the web, its introduction, then SQL injection, then SQL injection countermeasures, then web-based state using hidden fields and cookies, session hijacking, cross-site request forgery, Web 2.0, and cross-site scripting. So what is web? Web is a whole bunch of interconnected computers talking to one another, connected through the internet. Okay, so all of the websites we see nowadays, it's basically the web. The computers are typically connected by phone lines, digital satellite signals, cables, and other type of data transfer mechanism. So basically the web is the client and the server. Now what is cross-site scripting? Cross-site scripting is also known as XSS, is a web security vulnerability that allows an attacker to compromise the interaction that user have with a vulnerable application. It allows an attacker to circumvent the same origin policy, which is designed to segregate different websites from each other. So cross-site scripting vulnerability is normally on an attacker to masquerade as a victim user to carry out any actions that the user is able to perform. So if the victim user has privileged access within the application, then the attacker might be able to gain full control over all the functionality and the data. Now, what is session hijacking? So, session hijacking basically means when a hacker places himself in between you, the user, and between the computer you are using. So, in order to steal the information. So, the biggest threat of session hijacking is that the malicious attacker can also enter the server and access its information without having to hack a registered account. In addition, he can also make modifications in the server to help him back in the future or to simplify the data stealing operation. Now we'll see what are SQL injection. So SQL injections, it's a web security vulnerability that allows an attacker to interfere with the queries that an application makes to its databases. So it generally allows an attacker to view data that they are not normally able to retrieve. This might include data belonging to other user or any other data that the application itself is able to access. In many cases, an attacker can modify or delete this data, causing persistent changes to the application's content or behavior. Now we learn about control flow integrity. So in 2016, about 86% of all vulnerabilities on Android are memory safety related. So most vulnerabilities are exploited by attackers, changing the normal control flow of an application to perform arbitrary malicious activities with all the privileges of the exploited application. And control flow integrity is provided by the compiler and adds instrumentation into the binary during compile time. Now we'll see what is pen testing. Pen testing or penetration, it's basically a security exercise where a cybersecurity expert attempts to find a blind spots or some of the bugs in that computer system. And it is like a bank hiring someone to dress as a burglar and trying to break into their building and gain access to the vault. And if the burglar succeeds and gets into the bank or the vault, the bank will get the valuable information that where they have to work on their security and how we can increase the efficiency of our security measures. So these are the phases of pen testing, that how in phase 1 planning is done, then second scanning, then after that gaining the access, then in fourth maintaining access, then in fifth analysis and WAF configuration. Now the question arises, who performs pen tests? So pen tests are basically performed by those people which have little to or no prior knowledge to the how the system is secured, because they may be able to expose the blind spots that the developers missed during their developing the software. So that's it's the reason that the outside contractors are usually brought into performing these tests. These contractors are often referred to as ethical hackers, since they are being hired to hack into a system with full permission and for the purpose of increasing security. So many ethical hackers are experienced developers with advanced degree, and some of them also have certification for pen testing. So they usually they are ethical hackers who have the permission for these type of means breaking into the system to check how secure the system is. Now at last we will be studying about fuzzing, that what is fuzzing. So, fuzz testing was originally developed by Barton Miller at the University of Wisconsin in 1989. So, fuzz testing or fuzzing, it's a software testing technique and it's a type of security testing. Okay, so fuzz testing or fuzzing is a software testing technique of putting invalid or random data called fuzz into software system to discover coding errors and security loopholes. So it is basically like inputting some random data, it's known as fuzz, into the system to discover the errors and the blind spots or the loopholes into the security. And the purpose of fuzz testing is inserting data using automated or semi-automated techniques and testing the system for various exceptions like system crashing or failure of built-in code. So this was all about my presentation on software security, and I hope all of you liked it. Thank you everyone and have a great day.